working. Good deal. Hey, so in politics, nobody's perfect. You know, everything we put out isn't always perfect. The candidates aren't perfect. The memes we put out sometimes aren't perfect. The emails, everything happens in real time in politics. And so every now and then, we will make a mistake here at Ohio Gun Owners and put out something that then becomes factually inaccurate or needs to be tweaked or modified or whatever. It's just the nature of politics when you're dealing with things in real time. So this video is us fessing up that we may have made a mistake when it comes to one of the different candidates and their ratings. And this time I'm talking specifically about current state senator Andy Brenner. Now this guy, Andy Brenner, short little guy, you know, not the kind, probably a nerd, probably the kind of guy that was picked on in school and all that different kind of stuff. But he's a state senator. He's been a state senator for the last 8 years. Before that, he was a state representative for the 8 years before that. A little redundancy there. See, I made a mistake. And so initially with Andy Brenner, little Andy Brenner, we put out a rating that had him at a B- because we were scoring some of his votes. We found that he had voted for House Bill 123, which is a gun control bill. We've talked all about that kind of stuff. And we like to get along with most of these legislators. In fact, we're friends with a lot of different legislators, politically speaking, not to take it any further than that, but we get along with a lot of them. We'd prefer to get along with them. But as a gun rights organization, and we've talked about this before, as a gun rights organization, we have to kind of balance that, because if there's one thing we're not ever going to do, we're never going to become representatives of the politicians back to our membership, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum for the last decade here at Ohio Gun Owners. So initially we gave Andy Brenner a B- because we were holding him accountable for some of the lame things that he had done as a state senator. And he hated that. He was all mad about that. He was mad that that grade that we gave him at the time didn't reflect the fact that he just co-sponsored another gun rights bill in the Senate. And so we're magnanimous. We came back out. We said, okay, we'll give you a B+. That's probably worth a vote grade or the majority of a letter grade. So we brought him back from B- up to a B+. And then one of the oldest truisms in politics is follow the money, right? It's one of the pithy comments that people have said for years and years. In politics, if you want to know what's really going on, follow the money. And so our team, not me, but our team here at Ohio Gun Owners started digging into the money. And if you want a really eye-opening experience and to be able to come to the concrete knowledge that most of these legislators are not being supported by their districts. They're not financially supported by their districts. They don't have a lot of grassroots donations. Quite frankly, if you want to see with your own eyes that the majority of these people are all installed in office by the special interest organizations, and right now you got a couple of them. The Haslam family is doling out money because the Republican legislature gave them what will be in total, after all the interest and all that thing is calculated, it'll be over $1 billion boondoggle given to the billionaire Haslam family for the Brown Stadium. So they're doling out money right now. You got the sports betting PACs that are doling out money right now. You've got the construction organizations that are building all these data centers. They are shoveling money into Republican legislators right now in their campaigns, or candidates anyway, at a rate that would blow your mind. But here we are doing our due diligence because we represent gun owners to the political class, not the other way around. We started, our team, not me, a couple other guys started digging into the money and what's being shoveled around, particularly from the anti-freedom perspective. So in that process, we uncovered a bunch of gun control organizations or their lobbyists that were shoveling money into even these Republican candidates' coffers. And that, to us, that's a no-go. If you're taking support from them and you're not openly, if you're not out there publishing that information and saying, hey, I want everybody on my in my district to know that I'm taking money from the gun control crowd, but I'm never going to vote for gun control. I'm only ever going to vote against it. I don't know why they're giving me this money. So we found out that information about quite a few of these candidates. Let me just show you a couple of them here real quick. Gary Click, we previously had him at a C-. He's the definition of a C kind of guy, right? We previously had him at a C-, which I think technically is a passing grade. I don't know what C-s are for the rest of the world out there. I was homeschooled, so I didn't get C-s like that right down there, wherever it is on your where you're watching. But technically, I think it's a passing grade. We thought we were being magnanimous for a guy who voted against the Second Amendment Protection Act, which is a very serious bill that simply says that the day that federal gun control gets passed, they cannot commandeer state and local law enforcement that Ohio taxpayers pay for. They can't be weaponized against their own people. Fabulous bill. Gary Click here voted against that bill. He broke with the majority of Republicans, voted with the Democrats against the Second Amendment Protection Act. So he earned that C- in every way, shape, and form. But then we found out that either these gun control groups or their lobbyists were shoveling money into Gary Click's campaign. And he went berserk when we put him at an F rating for that. And it's just these people want us to sing their praises like they are Charlton Heston in the flesh when it comes to being legislators, but they're not. They're geldings. And so since we represent our membership to the political class, we dropped him from a C- down to a failing grade. He voted against gun bills. He's taken money from the gun control lobby. It's an F by any objective standard. So we did that for Gary. We did it for old Jim Hoops here. Jim Hoops is another nice guy. He's a nice guy. And you know what? That hairdo is amazing, by the way. He's got one heck of a pelt going on right there. But again, old Jim Hoops here voted against the Second Amendment Protection Act, and we were forced to give him this F rating after we found out that he's also taken money from some of these scumbag lobbyists. And he gets all angry about it. Who else do we got on here? We got Frank Hoagland. Again, I think all three of these so far have been endorsed by Buckeye Firearms Association and the NRA. Maybe not the NRA, I don't know. They don't like to get involved way down into the weeds on this stuff. They just get involved when it's time to screw us over. But anyway, Frank Hoagland voted for or co-sponsored Mike DeWine's red flag gun confiscation law after the Dayton shooting in 2019. He's one of three Republicans to do it. It was Matt Dolan, who was the sponsor, Peggy Lehner from Kettering, and Frank Hoagland in the state Senate. Those were the only three Republicans in the legislature to co-sponsor this bill. And so he already had a huge mark against him, right? So we had to give him a D+ because he's literally out there. And maybe that's a passing. Maybe that was too generous. I don't know. We're very generous here at Ohio Gun Owners. But anyway, we found out that Frank here too is on the dole with one of these lobbyists, or maybe it was one of the gun control organizations. I don't have this info in front of me right now, but and hang on just a second here. I want to watch the comments in case there's anything cool. But anyway, so we're putting all this pressure on these legislators, right? It's what our job is as a gun rights organization. We're supposed to be your advocates, not the legislators' advocates. And then we took the next step and connected the money to them as candidates, because that's what an intellectually honest and principled organization would do. And then we did it to Andy Brenner. Okay, I just explained Andy Brenner. We had to strip him of his B+ and bring him down to an F rating because of some of these things. Now, the vast majority of gun owners know this stuff. But as I sit here, I wanted to apologize because when we gave him that B+ rating and then stripped it down to an F, I think we probably made a mistake. All right. Andy's a nice guy. I mean, he's the kind of guy that brings a salad to a tailgate party and then he eats it. Nice guy. You know, he claps when the plane lands. That's Andy Brenner. But we neglected to point out the fact that in his 16 years of being a legislator, and you're like, Chris, what are you talking about? This guy hasn't been in there for 16 years. We have term limits, 8 years. That's all they can do. No, this guy is that merry-go-round, rider where he does 8 years over here in the House side, and then he jumps over to the Senate side, and now he's jumping back to the House side. We neglected to point that out. And so honestly, the fact that he voted for gun control, House Bill 123, the fact that he is getting money from the gun control lobby or their lobbyists or whatever, we could dig back into that. And the fact that as a legislator in 16 years, the guy never prime sponsored a gun rights bill himself. The dude is a total follower. But that brings me to my main point about this whole apology video, okay? We come out with this very truthful F rating. All right, you're looking at it right there. We posted that on our Facebook page, came out with that, stripped him down. He starts going berserk, right? He sends his number one, what do you call it? Like, like on the movie Troy, where you send out your number one skilled fighter. He sends out his wife because she's the one who does all of his social media fighting for him. Andy Brenner, he's like the last guy you'd call to change a tire because he's always the guy who shows up and he's like, well, maybe we should call AAA, That's Andy Brenner, but he sends out his number one lieutenant and he gets all in a rage. I'm so pro-gun. I've done this. I've co-sponsored that. He never tells the truth. Generally, when he co-sponsors a bill, it's because it's past the Senate and they open the rolls back up. And they're like, does anybody want to add their name as a co-sponsor? It's literally like, which way is the wind blowing? Oh, this bill just passed. Boom, I'm going to add my name as a co-sponsor. So he goes berserk. His wife goes berserk. He's out there saying, I did all this. And he gets the guys over there at Bearing Arms to write a couple of articles about this. And I'm just going to pull this up here for you because I want you guys to see this for yourselves. I think it's right here. Boom, there it is. So he gets Cam Edwards from bearingarms.com. And I know, I'm just going to talk about this for a second. bearingarms.com, it's a blog. These people sit there, they write these articles that nobody reads, and then they sell advertisements. You can see like the ads that they sell along the side there. Let me look at this. Gulf of America cruise. What else they got here? They advertise some of their other articles and stuff like this. But anyway, they write for this blog. They crank out these articles, always for the establishment. And so Cam Edwards does this article. Let me scroll down to that's a nice picture right there. Look at that. Ooh, good picture, good post. So you scroll right down to the bottom. Cam Edwards, these bloggers don't understand something. And I'm just going to try to lay it out here for you real quick. These bloggers don't understand the fact that nobody gives a rip about what a blogger says. Take it, for example, Cam Edwards here. This dude is from Farmville, Virginia, right? I know a lot about Farmville. I've been there many times. He's from Farmville, Virginia. Virginia is the state that just passed the entirety of the gun control agenda. Well, they'll come back for more next session, but these people literally have no ability to affect political outcomes. That's why Ohio gun owners isn't interested in the blogging world. We don't have a blog because nobody would read it because nobody cares, right? So he comes out with this article about how what's behind the 2A group's allegations that multiple Republicans took gun control money. And he goes through how this is the Ohio gun owners, the Door Brothers operation, blah, blah, blah. Turns out Gary Click isn't the only person who's suddenly been accused. He doesn't go into it and actually look and figure this stuff out for himself. Talks about another candidate that we had to do it to, Ben Weber, another guy that's taken money from these lobbyists or these gun control organizations. And then he sits there and starts to attack us. Now, again, I doubt Cam Edwards has ever testified in a committee in his life, but he doesn't know that the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police or their lobbyists have been part of the gun control lobby in Ohio for decades, right? Heinz von Eckertsberg, the German dude, is their gun control lobbyist. He stands there in committees with his uniform on, or his suit now that he's no longer the Dublin police chief, but they stand there and they represent law enforcement, even though they're beat cops. The people actually on the street are members of our organization because they know that Ohio Association of Police doesn't represent them when it comes to the Second Amendment. He sits there and gets all in a tizzy about the fact that this is law enforcement. Well, the BSSA is law enforcement, and they testified in uniform against constitutional carry. They testified against the Second Amendment Protection Act. They testified against stand your ground. And if they didn't testify against them, they dang sure never supported it. And in gun politics, if you're not for us, you're against us. It's just the golden rule in politics. But so anyway, Andy Brenner is shouting like a banshee because we're finally connecting the dots on him. We're telling everybody the straight up facts. He's never sponsored bills. He likes to co-sponsor and vote for them once they get onto the floor. But you cross a line when you start taking money from entities, lobbyists, and organizations that hate us. It's not hard. This is not a difficult concept to understand. And he goes into, I can't find any record of Sandy Hook promising. You just don't know how, you don't know what you're doing, Cam. You've never been involved at the legislative level. You're a blogger. It's what you do. And so he has an issue with us saying the House Bill 123 is a gun control bill. When you have Sandy Hook Promise and Moms Demand Action there in the committee room testifying in favor of the bill, it becomes gun control. Straight up. That's the way it goes. And we could get into House Bill 123. We've done a lot of videos on that in the past. But anyway, just comes in here and says, what are they doing? This guy is all that and a bag of chips. And you guys are so mean to Andy Brenner. And it's just like, we don't apologize for this. The only thing I'm here to apologize for is that we didn't give Andy Brenner an F-. So there you have it. Ohio gun owners fesses up. We made a mistake, but we gave Andy Brenner, we had to come up with a different one. F was pretty bad. It means you failed, but we had to find a way to make it very clear that we had screwed up and that an F rating was quite possibly way too generous for Andy Brenner and probably for some of these other people, because at the end of the day, the clock is ticking in this country. And for us to sit here and play patty cakes and sing Kumbaya with these people is not an option anymore. But here's what it boils down to, and the real reason why Andy Brenner deserves an F- more than an F. It's because of the other reaction that he had to us coming out with stripping away his B+ and ranking him down an F. He went on Jack Windsor's radio show and publicly said out loud that this probably isn't so much about the gun control efforts and funding that he's taken, and that it's probably more about the fact that he's supported by Speaker Matt Huffman. And that's the big apology that I wanted to come on here and share with you, because Speaker Matt Huffman is an outright enemy of freedom. This entire Republican primary is about one thing, and that is Matt Huffman's ability to retain the speaker's gavel. And Andy Brenner has promised 100% loyalty and fealty to that entity, Speaker Matt Huffman, more than anything else. So he publicly said it on Jack Windsor's radio show, and that is all that you need to know. Speaker Matt Huffman has not only blocked the Ohio Second Amendment Protection Act and blocked the Ohio Freedom to Carry Act and blocked the Ohio Self-Defense Act in the legislative committee process, but he has also blocked so many other pro-freedom bills that you can even think of. On medical freedom, House Bill 1, which is a bill that prevents the sale of Ohio critical infrastructure and land to foreign entities. We've all seen these articles about how the Chinese are gobbling up assets in the United States that are close to these kinds of facilities. House Bill 1 should have been passed on day one, but Matt Huffman, who is 100% in lockstep with every globalist, degenerate organization and special interest group that you can think of, has been blocking that stuff. He's been blocking it. So that's ultimately what a lot of this Republican primary is boiling down to. So if you're in one of these districts right now where you're getting 15, 20, 25 different mailers promoting this candidate or that candidate against a grassroots conservative, that's what's going on here. Matt Huffman and his stooges like Andy Brenner are absolutely focused on making sure that Huffman gets that gavel back, because when Huffman gets the gavel, we see what happens. Nothing good passes and everything bad continues to happen. All right. We could talk about all kinds of things. We could talk about data centers. We could talk about the property tax issue. We could talk about guns and medical freedom, all of these different things, but it all choke points in through one person, and that's Matt Huffman. If Matt Huffman isn't holding that speaker's gavel, he can't give $1 billion boondoggle to the Cleveland Browns Haslam family. If he can't deliver those kinds of goods for them, he doesn't get the campaign funds flowing back into his account. You see how this works? So more than anything, people like, let me switch my video screen here. More than anything, people like Andy Brenner are in a rage that we are finally calling out what's really been dictating the course of Ohio politics at the State House in Columbus, and that is the money. The money. The flow of money from organizations and lobbyists and special interest groups into House Republican leadership PACs, and then going out into these different districts. They are literally picking and choosing the candidates that will become the Republican nominees. And long term, this has devastating effects. It has devastating effects as more people become aware of this dog and pony show that has become the Republican primary elections in Ohio. The more people will simply just sit it out. That's how we've watched countless states over the years go from red to purple to blue. It's happening all over the country. It's because nothing has changed in these state legislatures. The people elected end up being weaponized against the very people they're supposed to represent. And instead of passing laws that make the lives of natives better, the people of the culture, the people whose story the state really is, as as laws get weaponized against people, they simply say, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to go through this humiliation ritual where all these candidates that have been picked by special interest groups, courtesy of Matt Huffman or whoever the speaker or leadership is at the Times campaign apparatus, they're just not going to participate because they'll get the same outcome. They'll get the same outcome either way. But the difference is they get to keep their self-respect and their pride if they just don't go and participate in the system. That's how things go from good to bad, from red to blue, and it happens very quickly once it starts. That's where we're at right now. So, for making the mistake of giving you an F rating when we should have given you an F- rating, Andy, our apologies from Ohio gun owners. Thanks a lot, folks. And if you have anybody else who agrees that the way things are going cannot continue because we will get screwed every single time. If you have friends like that, send them this video, link them in the comments or do whatever, because that's the nature of the game that we're playing here. They're in a rage. They're in a total rage that we're finally calling this stuff out, but we're not going to stop. And so please share this video with all of your friends who want to know the dirty truth. Thanks.